Hi guys, this will be the start of a new, I can't even think, playlist for Facebook, or kind of, I guess, theme, because I've got the Dolly Dreams, and then I've got the My Reality, um, and this could kind of fall under My Reality, but I wanted to make this playlist completely separate. Today, and you'll be seeing this tomorrow, but today I took the first steps on something I have been thinking about for a few years. And in all honesty, I was horribly scared about it for the longest time. And today I was at my doctor and we talked about it, discussed it, and Monday I have to make the initial call, but talking to my primary doctor, I took the first step, which is a scary step. I know I'm putting myself out there by doing this, but you know what? There is more than myself in this community, and I don't want everybody to feel alone. What it is I am going to be calling on Monday to see about weight loss surgery. This is something I have struggled with my whole life. When I was younger, I was about average size. And I had mentioned in a previous video about with my daughter and looking for jeans for her instead of leggings. Because around third-ish grade, second, third grade, my mom decided it would be a good idea to have me start wearing stretch pants instead of like a regular waist pant. And I fell in love with them. I was more comfortable. I mean, who wasn't with an elastic waistband versus regular waistband? And it wasn't until I started gaining weight at that point. I was putting on the pounds pretty regularly. My doctor never said much to my mom about it. But in 6th grade, when I finally decided I needed to own some actual, or I shouldn't say I decided, in 6th grade, my dad finally said, you're in middle school, you don't need to be wearing stretch pants or elastic waistband pants anymore. No more of this. So he took me to the store and we went looking for pants. And I was in 6th grade, I was 12 years old, and I had to buy size 12 women's pants because that's the point I had gotten to. I'm only 5 foot tall. I stopped growing sometime in 7th or 8th grade. The doctors aren't exactly sure why I stopped growing at that point. At 16, my doctor did a growth plate scan or something where they check the growth plates in your hands, and mine had been fused together, and she said they'd been fused together for a while. But I regress. So I'm 5 foot tall, and I was probably around that height, maybe a little bit shorter, wearing size 12 pants. And my dad was not happy with my mother about this. He's like, this is the reason why I was against these pants to begin with. So in 6th and 7th grade, I did work on losing some weight, and I did get down to, I would say, probably a size 8. And everything seemed fine. I went on with my life. Fast forward to 10th grade. How my school did it is, I actually went to a private school from 6th grade to 8th grade. And where I grew up in 9th grade, 8th and 9th, I went to the private school. The private school is all one school. Public school, however, was kindergarten through 5th grade were the elementary schools. Then there was middle school, which middle school was 6th and 7th grade. Then there was the junior high, which was 8th and 9th. And then there was the senior high, which was 11th through 12th. So in 8th or 9th grade, the school that I was going to only went up to 8th grade, and I went back to public school. And in public school, I was in the junior high. I got involved in theater in junior high. I had lots of fun, but I kind of did more behind the scenes stuff in theater. I was a techie. I was a sound tech, to be specific, because I wasn't comfortable being up on stage because of my size. So I kind of sunk into the background. Well, I kind of went through a rough spot in the summer and in 10th grade. 10th grade, I moved into the high school. The high school was a big, scary thing because I was not used to big schools like that. Because in this junior high, you had what were called pods. And our pods were, you had your homeroom in your pod, and you had your 4 core classes, which were English, science, history, and math. And then homeroom were all in your one pod. And your electives were outside the pods, but they were around the perimeter of the school. So pretty much all of the 8th grade electives were on first floor with the 8th graders, and all the 9th grade electives were on 2nd floor with the 9th graders. And it made the school seem a lot smaller than what it really was. So going to the big school became very self-conscious. There was a lot more kids, and it got to the point where I developed an eating disorder. I basically would lie to my friends. I actually had my study hall I had a study hall, and my study hall was during our lunch period. So how I could get away without eating lunch is I would tell one friend that I was eating lunch with the second friend, and I would tell the second friend I was eating lunch with the third friend, and I would tell the third friend I ate lunch with the first or second. And in reality, all I was maybe doing was sipping on a bottle of soda the whole 90 minutes lunch was. And then when I got home, because I would buy food on my lunch, and then I would kind of pick at it and let my other friends eat it, my mom thought I was still eating. So then I would get home from school, and she'd ask about supper, and I'm like, oh, I'm not hungry. I ate a big lunch at school. And so I basically became anorexic. I was very limiting on what I ate. Majority of my calories did come from the soda. And even at that, it wasn't caffeinated soda. I would just slip on like Sprite. And that, like, I'd buy one Sprite at the beginning of a school day, because our cafeteria sold bottles of soda at that point. So I'd get there in time before breakfast was done being served. I'd buy the bottle, and I'd just sip on it all day. So I dropped a lot of weight. I literally went from a size 8'10" to a size 3. The summer between 10th and 11th grade, I had met my now ex-boyfriend, who actually was abusive, but for some reason he was in my life for a reason. He was actually able to get me out of the depression that I was in, as well as he kind of saw through my bullshit about eating. I would try to pull the same, oh, I'm not hungry. And yeah, you haven't eaten today. I've been with you most of the day. You haven't eaten. You're eating. I, during the summer, did an outdoor theater, an outdoor theater school. And so I spent pretty much the whole summer doing tech work, and I was doing it with him, and a bunch of other people, but we were both sound techs, and so we got the same breaks, we got the same lunch schedule, and he kind of that summer kept tabs on what I was eating. But I still was able to kind of pick at food and somewhat eat, but not really eat. And I just remember my mom buying this dress for our award ceremony at the end, and the dress was like a size extra small, which I had never worn that size ever. My mom kept praising me, everybody kept praising me about, oh, you're doing so, what are you doing, you've lost so much weight, and you know, that made me feel good, so that just kind of reinforced the eating disorder. I ended up breaking up with the boyfriend, but we still remained friends, and I was a junior in high school, he was a sophomore. He did kind of keep tabs on me that school year as well, because after we broke up, because I kept getting the positive attention, I kept reinforcing the eating disorder, which then encouraged me not to eat, where I couldn't get away with it when I was with him, but him not being my boyfriend anymore kind of pushed it so that I could get away with it again. And my junior year, I kind of once again picked at food. Junior year, I didn't have the full lunch like I did before, but I had study hall right before lunch. And so when it came to eating at lunch with my friends, I just ate something during study hall. So I could still kind of lie my way through it. Or if I did get something, it would just be like a small salad. I was like I said, I was very restrictive of my food. The dress and the clothes that I wore for my senior pictures, because I did senior pictures between junior and senior year, was the dress that my mom bought me. It was either a small or extra small dress. And the pants that she bought me were like size 3. They were like 3 or 5, and I had never been that size. So senior year, I kind of started eating more, but I basically restricted then myself to eating once a day. Senior year, I had a class before lunch, I had a class during lunch, and I had a class after lunch. So I really couldn't lie my way through not eating, and once again, it was kind of like picking at food, so I'd get maybe a salad. My school had a la carte, so instead of getting a full meal, I might just get like a chicken sandwich. But if I did something like that, that's all I could eat all day. I wouldn't allow myself to eat anything else the rest of the day. Going into college, it was kind of easier to hide some of the eating, but going into college, the big scary college, as well as I had this one class that I'll admit it was incredibly boring, and the only way to stay awake was to eat. And I wasn't the only one eating in this class. Like, pretty much everybody brought something to eat and drink. Some kids were bringing like bowls of cereal, and they had like a thermos with milk in it, and they'd sit and eat their cereal during this class because it was bad, and it was a mandatory class. So I did gain a little bit of weight in my freshman year in college. Junior year, I did a little bit more, but I still was within like probably 150 pounds, somewhere around there. So I wasn't too bad overweight. For my height, I looked overweight, but for my body structure, it looked fine. And then I met my husband, and he kind of saw through a lot of the eating disorder and kind of got me back into eating. But part of it kind of came in where I was now overeating. Instead of I would allow myself to eat more because I was getting more comfortable with him. And I gained a little bit of weight after meeting him. It wasn't too bad until I got sick. We moved into this apartment, and the apartment had black mold. Well, even before that. When we decided to move in together, my doctor at the time decided that because I was moving in with him, I needed to be put on birth control, and she put me on the pill, which is a hormone birth control. And thinking back, that's where a lot of my downward spiral started, screwing with my hormones. I've had polycystic my whole life, but my hormones, it just screwed them up even more being on the pill. If you have hormone problems, it's always good. There's other options now besides the pill, but back then there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of options. As well as I had a doctor that didn't believe I had polycystic. I had a doctor that didn't believe I had some of my stomach issues that I was having. So she put me on the pill, and I started gaining a little bit of weight. Wasn't too bad until probably about 6 months to a year after we moved into the apartment. I started noticing that I needed to get bigger sizes when I bought clothes. I was working at Old Navy at the time, so I was constantly buying clothes for myself and my husband. We got an employee discount, 10 items, 5 pairs of pants and 5 tops a month. We got 50% off because that was technically considered our uniform. We got 20% off of everything else. And that was what it was at the time. And I was noticing I was having to get bigger and bigger sizes. So I just, chalked it up with I didn't even think much of it. Well, then I started getting sick. I started having really bad, I started having really bad intestinal digestive problems. I've had digestive problems my whole life. I've had them since a child, and my childhood pediatrician said it was always in my head. And I just kept getting sick, and I kept getting sick, and I kept sitting sick. Anytime I ate, I would get sick. My husband kind of chalked that up to be, I'm lactose intolerant. I usually take lactate pills to eat any dairy products. So I cut out all the dairy. I was still getting sick. Anytime I got remotely stressed out, I was getting sick. And finally I had enough, went to a doctor, or went to a walk-in clinic and found my doctor. He was able to order my first colonoscopy, where they did find out there is stuff wrong with my digestive tract. There's stuff that shouldn't be there. I have ulcers and polyps in or at least I did, in my digestive tract. I still have the polyps, but the ulcers are gone. But he just kind of, I had just met this doctor, and I had said about the weight gain, and he's like, maybe it has to do with your digestive. Let's try to get your digestive figured out. We'll see where we go from there. So we just kind of played it by ear and just kind of monitored stuff. And I was still gaining weight no matter what I eat. If I had salads, I would get sick, and not to be too gross, I would have diarrhea. And he's like, that doesn't make sense with the way you're gaining weight, with the way that your bowel movements are going. You'd think you'd be losing weight because it'd be flushing out all the time. Well, then I started having lung problems, and I developed asthma. I was constantly having bronchitis. For probably the last 2 years we lived in this apartment, we lived there 6 years, I had bronchitis at least every other month, sometimes every month. And we just attributed that to being, I was working in an infant room at a daycare during that time frame, and kids are petri dishes to begin with, and babies are even worse. So we just figured it's because I'm just catching everything the babies are getting. Well, then we moved out of the house out of the apartment and into our house that we had purchased. And a lot of my lung issues cleared up with that. And in the time frame between the move, we decided to start trying for a child. It wasn't happening. We went to fertility. The fertility doctor ran a bunch of tests, confirmed my polycystic, found out I've had a thyroid issue that has been uncontrolled for years. He's almost wondering if part of my growth was because of the thyroid. And he's thinking that he was like, oh, part of your weight gain was probably the thyroid. So he put me on thyroid medication, and I ended up getting pregnant with my son. Well, because of my polycystic, they had me on metformin, and when you're on metformin and you get pregnant, they want you to come in and do some of your glucose testing. And because at that point I was insulin resistant is what they had it labeled as, because I wasn't really diabetic by my A1C, but when I had to do the 1 hour and 3 hour diabetic tests, you have to drink this nasty orange drink. The 1 hour, what was it? 1 hour I failed, but the 3 hour I passed. So they just said it was insulin resistant. Get pregnant with my son, I needed to go on insulin right away because I kept checking my blood sugars and they were high. So anytime I get pregnant, I have to be put on insulin right away. Diabetes runs on both sides of my family. Didn't think much of it. And in the meantime, I had kind of been gaining weight. And once again, this is kind of making up excuses. Gaining the weight before I had my son was, my husband had been in Iraq for a year. I had been eating like crap because it was just myself. It didn't make sense for me to go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of food to make food for myself. I either ate over at my parents' house or I was at my friend's house, and my friend ate out a lot. And being it was just myself, and I was with her on the weekends, if I wasn't eating at my parents' house that day after work, I would literally just stop somewhere, like McDonald's. There was a sub shop that I would stop at a lot, a local one. Taco Bell was on my way home, Burger King, like, I would just chalk it up, or I would just eat a bunch of fast food. So I kind of gained a little bit of weight when my husband was gone. I figured it was just because I had eaten out so much. So fast forward, got pregnant with my son, and they had a dietitian talk to me, and she put me on this kind of sort of diet to go with the insulin. Well, what had happened is, in a short time frame, I dropped a lot of weight, and my doctor became concerned. She's like, you shouldn't be dropping that much weight that fast between the diet and the insulin. So she wanted the diet to go out. She's like, let's just figure out how much insulin you need, because we don't need you. In pregnancy, when you're overweight, they don't want you to gain weight, but they don't want me to lose weight like I did. Like, literally in a 3-week period, I think I lost almost 30 pounds. So I was able to maintain where I was at that point throughout the rest of my pregnancy with my son. My son was born 10 pounds, 9 ounces, and after the water, placenta, and his weight, 2 weeks after he was born, I literally was 50 pounds lighter than 50 pounds lighter than the heaviest I had been during the pregnancy, and it was like 30 pounds less. I had lost 20 pounds in 3 weeks. It was 30 pounds less than my pre-pregnancy weight. So I was able to keep all that weight off. I was still overweight, but I was able to keep that weight off. When my son was 9 months old, I got pregnant with my daughter. Once again, went on insulin. With her, I didn't lose weight, but I didn't gain weight. So my doctor was happy with that. After she was born, I got baby blues very badly. They went unchecked. I didn't want to admit that I was having baby blues. And that's kind of where a lot of the weight now started happening. Is I started eating to kind of combat the baby blues, and everybody was, okay, you need to eat, you need to keep up your strength, you need to eat, you need to keep up your strength. So I kept eating and I kept eating. Then my husband and I got into this bad habit of going out to eat at fast food places more than we should have. The kids were young, so their diets didn't really matter because my son would eat just a little bit of whatever we were eating, and my daughter was just still eating a bottle. And that habit became a very bad habit. To this day, we still have that very bad habit of eating out more than I want to. So, and today when I went to the doctor, I had gained more weight, and I was honest with her this time. I'm like, I've been putting this off. I know I gained again. And then she goes, well, what's going on? And I go, I'm hungry. I go, I can eat, and then 10 minutes later, I'm hungry. And I go, I know I shouldn't be hungry. Like, half of my brain is saying, no, you just ate, you're good. The other half of my brain is saying, you better eat now, you're starving to death. Like, it's like the two parts are constantly fighting. If I go to the logical side of, no, I ate, I'm good, I don't need to eat anything, when I finally do eat something, it's like then that side of my brain completely takes over and I want to eat everything in sight. So I can't, I'm in a constant battle with myself about eating. And she goes, well, what have you tried? I'm like, I've tried diets. I've tried eating healthier things. I go, we go out to eat more than I want to. And I try to make healthier choices when we do that. Like, if we go to Sonic, I may just get a burger instead of a burger, fries, or tots, or a milkshake, or whatever. And she's like, well, how about soda? What are you drinking? And I go, I don't drink any soda. I go, I very, very, very rarely drink soda. I go, I pretty much drink water all the time. I've had this dehydration issue. The only time I feel good is if I drink water. And she goes, well, keep drinking the water. Try not to add soda. Don't drink sweet tea. I'm like, don't worry. I don't like the taste of tea, period, let alone sweet tea. It's too much for me. But she was able, like, after us discussing some other things that I'm not going to get into, I brought it up and she agreed, to talk to a gastroenterologist about having weight loss surgery. Monday, I will be calling to make the appointment. By the time I got done with my doctor appointment, it was too late to call and make the appointment. I'm going to make it so my husband can come with, so he can hear what's going on, or if he has any questions. And this isn't something that just came up overnight. Like, I have been thinking about this for years. Like I've said before, I'm friends with Melissa from my 600-pound life. I've talked to her about it. I've had a couple other friends have weight loss surgery within the last couple years. And I've looked up things online. It's something I have been thinking about doing, but I've just been afraid to make the first steps. And I want to start a new me. I want to be a healthier me. That's what I want, but I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a cycle of, if I diet, then that part of my brain takes over, and when I do eat, wants to eat everything in sight. I feel like I'm stuck. Feel like a rat running on or in one of those wheels, like a rodent wheel thing. I feel like I'm just running in circles. Like, I need to make a change, and I need to make it now. And I've taken the first steps to become a new me. And that's why I'm starting this new playlist. So this playlist will be my weight loss journey. And the transformation, because like I've said, within the doll community, I know I'm not alone. I know that I'm not alone. And I'm hoping that putting myself out there like this, even within the YouTube community, that if I can help one person, I feel like it's a success. It's worth putting myself out there to help others. So I hope you join me in this journey. I will be posting updates. When I checked out for my doctor appointment today, the lady that checked me out at the clinic actually is doing the weight loss surgery next week, I believe she said. It's either next week or next month. And she said she's incredibly excited. And her and I kind of discussed it a little bit, and she goes, it's to get it done. She goes, the first step, admitting I needed to get it done. Second step was calling. And she goes, once you get over those 2 hurdles, it goes by quickly. And she goes, I was also afraid and thought that I had to go through all this other stuff. And she goes, and it turns out all I had to do was call the doctor. I had to see him once a month for 6 months. And after that, he scheduled the surgery. And she goes, I am so excited to start this journey. She goes, to transform myself, to become the person on the outside that I feel like I am on the inside. And I got exactly what she was saying. Like, going to a store, I can go to the store with somebody my exact height, but is a size 1, and me being plus size. She's going to get more of the attention from employees, like, may I help you? And then they just kind of look at me. When you're overweight and obese, you actually get treated differently than somebody within a normal weight or skinny, because you're looked upon as different. And I totally understood what she was saying. So I know there's others like me out there, and I don't want you to feel alone. Basically why I'm going to go through this and vlog this journey in my life. So I hope you join me on this journey, and I will see everyone later. Bye.